Writing a retro-themed computer on... Um... Writing a retro-themed novel on your retro computer. What could be more simple? Hello world, I'm Kami. In April 2023, having finished the latest draft of my loosely inspired by K-pop novel, ooh, foreshadowing, I started writing a completely new novel on my Acorn RISC PC. Like literally writing using the computer. If you want to know more about what kind of beast a RISC PC is, then check out my first video on the topic. As I explained in that first video, I was really interested in creating a kind of art that is fundamental to who Kami is as a person, but creating it in a completely different way to how I had ever before. Boop, boop, boop. It's not something we think about very often as writers. You can handwrite your novel or you can type it according to your preference, and it's just your preference, right? Any finer detail like what kind of pen to use, how clicky your keyboard should be, the answer is very clicky. It's just more of your preferences. It's not like changing brushes for your painting or things like that, right? At the end of the day, what comes out is ultimately still going to be just words, right? Right. So the first thing I had to overcome was a matter of inconvenience. Because I love writing, over the years, I've managed to most efficiently connect my thoughts about writing to the act of actually putting the words down on paper or computer. I type rather than writing by hand these days because, frankly, my fingers just can't keep up with my brain when we're holding a pen. And I always have whatever I'm currently working on up and ready on my laptop, which is always on and ready, just a few steps away from where I am, because I am a tragic nerd. A desktop machine of the 90s is not designed to cater to your conveniences in that way. It is not portable or easily adjustable. It isn't designed to be left on all day and to just sit there waiting while you go about your daily business, occasionally to run over and bang out a line or two. It has absolutely none of the tree-saving considerations of newer machines. It's not quiet, and here's a thing about monitors of that era. If you leave them on long enough, then it's just like what my parents always used to say to me when I was pulling my worst faces. The wind is going to change, and it will be left that way forever. Screen burn-in is serious business. And when you consider that this particular monitor over here has already survived a trip from the UK to Australia just to get to me, well, you don't want to mess around with your luck too many times. Okay, so I'm exaggerating just a little here because my monitor does have some power and screen saving features. And I also have my wife installed within my house as an additional safety feature, since she was the one who was responsible for getting this monstrosity shipped to me in the first place. She is feeling even less optimistic than I am when it comes to tempting fate with this thing. But the TLDR here remains the fact that a retro computer is not the same kind of set and forget machinery that a lot of our modern computers have evolved into being. A retro computer is a set and forget. A retro computer is a set and forget kind. A retro computer is a set and forget kind of... No. I'm facing this fact in a few other ways too. My word processor that I'm using is absolutely wonderful. It even has built in the word count feature that I was too incompetent to create myself. Programming is hard, yo. But did I mention that I am working in an operating system I have not substantially touched in over 20 years? I'm not saying it's actually harder than trying to come to terms with whatever the latest monstrosity of Windows is, but since I'm not actually using this operating system for all my regular work, it's still a bit of an adjusty-wusty time for me. Now, I'm no stranger to just grabbing a story idea and running with it for thousands and thousands of words, even if I don't have the faintest idea where it's going yet. That's basically how I made it through the yearly challenge National Novel Writing Month more times than I can count. Although I've even gone off that in recent years because as I get older, I just want to take my time writing whatever I'm feeling inspired by on a particular day, as much as I am feeling inspired by it, rather than conforming to some arbitrary goal that I don't actually care about. That's right, I'm becoming really old. But all the same, I can usually knock out a few thousand words on an idea before it totally fizzles on me. Now, I am genuinely very interested in this retro novel idea. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here on a nice Wednesday afternoon blathering about it on camera. But a few times now, I have tried to sit down and get into this project, and it just doesn't seem to flow. I get through one day or 2 days very well, and then I'm just struggling. I've tried to tackle the brief from this angle and that, and none of them has really taken off in a way that's sustainable. And I reiterate, it is not because I lack interest in the subject. Am I too interested in the subject? If I'm just working on some random story idea on my ideas list that takes my fancy, well, it's no more or less important than any other idea on that particular list. If it fails to take off because I'm not in the right mindset to work on that idea at the moment, or I can't quite find the right tone, then it's not a big deal. I drop it and I move on to the next thing, and maybe I come back to it later. But in this situation, I am pretty much doomed to keep knocking away at this idea or something like the idea until I magically knock out a diamond. Or at least until I unearth something sparkly enough that I'm motivated to keep chipping away. When I look at my last couple of completed drafts, including the K-pop story, I had false or messy starts with those projects too. In the case of the K-pop story, which I was also very enthusiastic about, I abandoned it for months at a time a couple of times until I could find the right thread to pick up to get to the end of the story. But all the same, I guess the cost of those false starts wasn't as great. It's a lot less fiddly to start any number of new permutations of new stories or old stories on the modern computer that I'm still using for most of my writing, to move writing around between or within documents, to review what's already been written. I can do these things without even thinking about it in the machine I'm used to, in the crappy OS that I'm currently very up on. Important aside, I would absolutely never call RISC-OS a crappy OS. I really, really love it. I think it's possible that if an operating system a little more like RISC-OS had come to the fore many years ago instead of you-know-who, we'd be seeing a different and better and more beautiful computing landscape. But in the real world, it just never developed that way. And so, it will never be the case that I can appreciate RISC-OS in the context of a modern OS that has stood the test of time for millions upon millions of users. And as personally amusing as the idea might be, I don't think that the thing to do from here is to go to using my RISC-OS machine as my daily computer. Never say never, I still have lots of modules to add, but that's definitely not on the cards right now. I don't know what the answer is right now, actually, except to sit with my present discomfort and to just go on beating my head against this writing block in the form of a PC from a prior century. The thing about writing is, when it flows, it's beautiful. But if you expect it to always flow, then you're just setting yourself up to be an unhappy writer. There are lots of reasons things don't flow at a given time. There's stress, overwork, lack of satisfaction with your current level of performance, which, as you can imagine, is something of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Deciding to write your next novel in the most convoluted and difficult way possible, including regular application of floppy disks. But I am going to keep trying with this. If I write only one more novel-length work this year, it will be based on this project. And even if I never do achieve the blissful state of flow, I will be happy to struggle through this every step with my fingers bleeding along the way. I will finish this project. Or I will keep trying, even if I have to die of natural causes in the process. And on that incredibly cheerful note, I guess you can look forward to encountering my next video update approximately 2 years from now. Look, dude, I know you're new, but you've got to try to behave when I... What? What? You don't think they're...